Welcome in. It is Monday night. That means it is time for Monday Live. Always better coming off a weekend in which Clemson won. We don't sit here for an hour and gripe and complain. Two in a row, two in a row. Um, 3 weeks ago, I wasn't sure Clemson could win another game this season, much less pull off two in a row. Yet here they've done it. Sitting there watching that game in the first quarter, you're seeing Clemson can't run the ball again. You're sitting there thinking, "Oh no, here we go again." Because I think they had 15 rushing yards in the first quarter. They make some tweaks along that offensive line, and the rest is history. Phil Moffitt has another good game. Will Shipley bounces back, after his injury against North Carolina State, or comes back after his injury against North Carolina State, has a good game. Thought Cade Klubnik played well. Just a pretty solid complimentary performance, and Clemson's not played a lot of complimentary football this season. I thought they did that from the second quarter on Saturday, and it showed in the results. I mean, that defense just another outstanding effort, man. They were suffocating that secondary. You can't say enough about those guys, man. I'm pretty sure Nate Wiggins is going to be gone after this year, headed for greener pastures in the NFL. Man, they got some guys ready to step in and take his place. Shelton Lewis, Avion Terrell, man, he is not just taking anything away from Shelton Lewis, but man, Terrell is so impressive for a freshman. Man, he's just, I don't know, he's got that moxie, man. He just doesn't come off as a freshman, and in certain aspects, Shelton Lewis doesn't either. But I don't know, there's just something a little different about Terrell. Just something stood out to him the other night after the game, and I don't know. He just kind of oozes that confidence, man. It's just, you can tell when some kids have it, man, and he's got it. Um, it is something to behold. I see somebody here saying we didn't even get one good year from Wiggins. Yeah, I would strongly disagree with that. Um, Nate Wiggins is one of the best cover corners in the country. He allowed like a 2.8 passer rating over the first half of the season. Um, No, I would bet it's not a whole lot higher over the second half of the season. All corners are going to get burnt from time to time. None of them are perfect. Saying you didn't get any good seasons from Wiggins, man, I just can't disagree with that more. I thought he was really good over the second half of last season, and man, we're talking about a guy that's going to be a late first round, mid or early second round pick come April. That guy is good. He is a baller. I cannot disagree with that more. People see a kid get beaten and you know just automatically sometimes assume oh man he gets beat all the time, but I don't know. I would just say go back and rewatch that Florida State game and watch how he locked down Keon Coleman. I don't think anybody else in the country's done that this year. Does Wiggins get beat every now and then from time to time? Sure. I think he probably underestimated Singleton's speed for Georgia Tech Saturday a little bit, particularly early. That guy's got world class speed, like 10. He runs like a 10.900 meter or something like that. Man, he can fly, and I think maybe Wiggins might have underestimated a little bit, but I thought he rebounded well. He got beat on another one late, but man, his closing speed is so good. He came back and made up the ground and broke up the pass. I mean, a lot of things to like about Nate Wiggins. But even after he's gone, back to my point, man, that defensive backfield, man, it is set up to be really good over the next few years. Um, already mentioned Shelton Lewis and Avion Terrell. That's not even bringing up Jaden Lucas, who's going to be really good too. Is already really good. Is going to get even better. Um, the Khalil Barnes, another young defensive back, although he's a safety he's more a safety than a corner, but probably a nickel really. But um, he's really good. Only going to get better, man. Those guys on that Clemson is set up nicely for the future in that secondary. Then you got a guy like DeVoy Fegan coming in this current recruiting class, who's also really good, high ceiling. So they got to like where they are secondary wise when you looking ahead. again, that defense, I didn't think they let Hayes King get comfortable all day long. Excuse me, Haynes King. I don't know why I want to keep calling him Hayes, but Haynes King. Don't think they let him get comfortable all day long, man. It was almost like he was hearing footsteps. They rattled him early, and he just never settled in. And when you can put pressure on a quarterback early and rattle him, it makes all the difference in the world. That'll be a key with Drake May coming to town this weekend. Well, we'll see if Clemson can send those seniors off with a win. 7 point opened as a 7 point favorite. Yeah, you know what? I did. Corey and Gibson's coming in too. They got two excellent corners coming in this class: Corey Gibson and Tavoy Fegan. Forgot about him for a second there. Gibson's actually probably got the higher ceiling than Fegan. Gibson's one of the top 100 players in the class. I personally think Fegan's a little underrated. The guy, man, he is a ball hawk. Golly, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but his interception numbers from this season were pretty impressive. Last time I saw him, I can't remember what they were off the top of my head, but anyways, they got two really good corners coming in this class to go with what they already have. I mean, these young guys are so good, man. Toriano Pride's not even getting on the field. And the last time we saw Toriano Pride, he was playing the best game in his career. I mean, it's just that secondary is so much better than it was a year ago. They just were so banged up and so inexperienced on the back end last year, and it never really came together. Um, it, they're fun to watch. 4 interceptions, all four by freshmen. Terrell plays just like his brother. That's part of what kind of stood out to me after the game. He was asked if Terrell Allen was back, and he did not hesitate. He did not blink. He just said, "Yes, it is." I mean, that kid just oozes confidence, man. You can see he just oozes it. Can't say enough about those young guys. Yes, this is the official GoFundMe page of Jimbo Fisher. All donations received, I promise, Scout's Honor will be sent directly to Texas A&M. So if you want to help out, and pay off Jimbo's buyout, all you got to do is send me a personal check. I can give you my Cash App, my PayPal, whatever you need. I promise I'm not going to be going out and buying, you know, high-end cars tomorrow or anything like that, man. I swear I'll be sending it straight on to Jimbo and Texas A&M. So all donations are welcome. Yeah. Speaking of that, you know, scrolling Twitter earlier today, I saw Larry Williams from over at Tiger Illustrated dug up this old clip of Qualk from over at the Roar. He had a couple of guys from Texas A&M beat writers on the show back when they hired Jimbo, and he was warning them, man, of what was going to happen with Jimbo at the helm, and it was a very entertaining segment. They were not too thrilled with some of the things Qualk was telling them, but being Clemson fans, we saw what happened at FSU, right? You can kind of see the writing on the wall, and pretty much everything Qualk told those guys came to fruition. And Larry Williams went back and dug that clip up and retweeted it out today, and it was funny to listen to. I would suggest giving it a listen if you have not seen it yet. It's worth going and finding. Yes, Lewis, Barnes, Terrell, they all play like veterans, man. None of them look like freshmen. None of them look like freshmen. It's just, man, it's it is it's there's a reason why Mike Reed's considered one of the best cornerback coaches in the country, man. And I saw so many times last year people suggesting he needed to be fired because of the way the secondary struggled last year, man. That's a guy you don't fire. You don't even think about it. You don't even breathe it. Um, There's a reason Georgia's tried to poach him away a couple of times because he's considered one of the best at what he does. Um, when he goes out and takes a guy like Shelton Lewis, who's not all that highly touted, not some big 5-star, high 4-star guy or top 100 talent. Any kid Mike Reed wants targets. He gets the benefit of the doubt. I don't care if he's not ranked inside the top 500. If Mike Reed sees something in him he likes, that's enough for me, man. Because that guy's been around a long time. He knows what he's doing, and his track record speaks for itself. I suspected Shipley was going to play like you got to take the role away from me. Yeah, I thought Shipley looked as good as he's looked all season. I thought he looked a lot more patient. He wasn't rushing things. His vision was better. Maybe it works better with Moffa as that 1A guy and Shipley as that 1B guy. Maybe more using him more as a change of pace guy. I think that might benefit the offense more. Because again, I've said it a few times on. I think Maffa's the more well-rounded back. That's not taking anything away from Shipley. I just think Maffa's the more well-rounded guy. Shipley is probably the better pass catcher of the two, but maybe a little bit better in pass protection. But I still think Maffa's the more well-rounded back. And yeah, I agree. I think he played one of his better games of the season. Absolutely. Yes, Clemson's going to have their hands full with Tez Walker. Again, I go back to that game against Florida State, man. That kind of competition tends to bring out the best in Clemson. Or excuse me, in Nate. If he's matched up with Tez Walker, those kind of matchups tend to bring out the best in him. It just again, look what he did against Keon Coleman. He literally shut him down all day long. He wasn't able to do anything. I don't know if any other corners in the country's done that all season long. Not that I'm aware of. I don't get to watch Florida State every week, but what I've seen of him, I haven't seen anybody else do that to him. That's an impressive feat. So yeah, that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. Whoever's matched up on Tez Walker, I would I imagine he gets Nate. Nate draws him at least a good. Or I imagine that is a matchup we will see some. Are you going to continue with these shows after the season? I hope you do. Absolutely. They have been a staple for going on for about a year now. I think I talked about this last week, but say it again. Kind of started it on Facebook, just on a whim last year. Started going live, didn't advertise or anything. Just you know, I'd go live and people would jump on and start watching it. And we decided the audience kind of grew, and so I started setting it to every Monday night. And when the audience really started to grow, I said, you know what, let's try to move it over to YouTube and see if the audience will follow us. Took a little while. They didn't follow at first, man, but they eventually found us and came on over, man, and it continues to grow. But yeah, we did it all off season last year, and we're gonna do it all off season this year, every Monday night, man. Um, I'm a big basketball guy and baseball guy, but football never stops, man. Particularly with the way the recruiting calendar works now, so there's always something to talk about with football, and if there's not, man, we always got basketball and baseball. I'm not ignoring the recruiting questions. I'm gonna save them to the end, so don't think I'm ignoring them. Is the NCAA going to look into the non-targeting call on shipping? That is one that Dabo. I don't know what you mean by look into it, but that's one that Dabo said he sent to the ACC. That we won't ever hear what comes of it, though. There's nothing that really can be done about it now outside of I know they try to hold those guys account. Going by what Dabo said at his presser, they try to hold those officials accountable by basing their. I guess they got some kind of point system or something, and it goes off missed calls and calls they got right, and the better officials who are graded the best get the better assignment. So they do at least try to have some accountability there. Um, but outside of that, you're not going to hear anything else about it. Definitely look like an obvious targeting call to me, though. What's changed with the offensive line? Is it better play, better scheme, a bit of both? It's been a bit more simplified the past 2 weeks against Notre Dame. They just kind of went hat on a hat, went back to that zone blocking scheme they've kind of run for years, and it worked. You didn't see the guards out. You didn't see the guards out doing a bunch of pulling and stuff. I don't remember seeing it at all against Notre Dame, and it led to a better effort. Simplified it and went start leaned on a lot of zone runs. Mostly inside zone, or there was some outside zone too. But that inside zone was kind of the focal point of the old Clemson offense. So it's not something that they've not run in the past. But this year they've been running a lot more counters and traps. And last week against Notre Dame, they just went back to zone and went back to zone blocking, and it worked. Trent Howard played there at right guard, and man, I thought he played his rear end off a guy that just hasn't played that much. I thought he played outstanding. This week against Georgia Tech, I didn't think he played well. He was played in the first quarter, and he was struggling. And I think Clemson rushed for 15 yards in the first quarter, and they made a couple of changes up front. One of those being they inserted Mitchell Mays back in at guard, and he's a guy that I've ragged on plenty here because I thought he was a weak point along that offensive line after Walker Parks got hurt and he took over for Parks. But man, Mays might have played the best I've ever seen him play Saturday. He was solid. He was good. Um, Saw a little bit more pulling and stuff than we did against Notre Dame, but not a ton of it like we were seeing earlier in the season. So the biggest thing to me is they just kind of went back to more zone blocking stuff. Kind of they just more often they're going to just putting a hat on a hat and doing it that way rather than getting guards out pulling in space and stuff like that because it hasn't worked well. Although you know I did see more counters and traps against Georgia Tech than we saw against Notre Dame, but it wasn't a ton of them like we have been seeing earlier in the season. So me, I think that's the difference. Um, I was glad to see they didn't hesitate to go with somebody else when something wasn't working Saturday. Again, Howard wasn't playing well, so they went with Mays. They made a change at both guard spots, if I'm remembering right there at the end of the first quarter, early second quarter. And the rest is kind of history. The running game got kind of started to take off in that second quarter, and they ended up rolling. I heard less RPO being called. Thoughts on that? I don't know how much RPO is being called now as compared to what it was earlier in the season. It still looks like a pretty good bid at times to me. So I don't know. I haven't. I do think they are calling more straight runs than they were earlier in the season. But I don't. I still see a lot of stuff that I think looks like RPO. Based on the way that the guys up front are blocking. Sometimes it's hard to tell for me because I'm not a offensive line expert by any stretch, but uh, you know, RPO is going to be a part of this offense. You know, it's just a matter of getting your quarterback accustomed to doing it, experienced, and him making the right reads. It just gotta have a little patience with Klubnik, I think. But as far as how much RPO, how many RPOs are being called now as opposed to earlier in the season, hard to put a number on that. It might be a little bit less, but I'm not sure how much less it is. Tigers starting to come together at the right time. Got a championship defense, offense coming along now. They absolutely have a championship defense. There's no doubt about it, man. This defense is really good. Is it might not be quite as aggressive as what we used to see with Venables when he was at Clemson, but man, they are effective, man. They are effective. They, they, they are really good up front, a lot of depth on the interior. Um, Jeremiah Trotter has just balled out over the second half of the season. Barrett Carter, gives you a lot of speed there at will, and we talked about that secondary at the top. It has been lights out pretty much all season long. But they're going to get their test this week against Drake May. Although Haynes King, he's solid too. He's been doing a lot of good things with that Georgia Tech offense, and they made him look rather pedestrian. Made Sam Hartman look rather pedestrian. Made Drake May look rather pedestrian last year. So we'll see. Is Jay Haynes hurt bad, or do you think we might see a little of him? He was not dressed out Saturday. He looks okay. I'm not sure what's wrong with him, but I noticed he was not dressed out. But no, I don't expect to see. You've got four guys in front of him. Nah, he's got a couple more games he can play in and still keep his red shirt. Maybe if Clemson's blowing somebody's doors off over these last three games, you might see him get in there. But other than that, I don't expect to see him because you already got Maffa, Shipley, Dominique Thomas, and Keith Adams if you need to go down the depth chart. Also talking about a guy that didn't get here till the summer, didn't enroll early. So he had a lot to learn in a very short amount of time when it comes to pass protections and stuff. I just don't know that he's really ready, to be quite honest. What did you see in Josh Sapp watching live? I like what I saw on TV. I guess he's tight end. Yep, he is tight end number 2 now on the depth chart today. I really like Josh Sapp. A lot of people didn't like the take. They thought it was more nepotism from Dabo, because he's Patrick Sapp's son. But I like Josh Sapp. I think he's got the makings of a really solid tight end prospect, man, and he's physical. He brings some physicality to the position, and he's a natural pass catcher. He played wide receiver in high school before he moved over to tight end. He's a versatile guy. He talked about today how he's kind of played all over the field. He started out playing on defense, then he moved over to offense, if I'm remembering that right, and kind of started out at wide receiver. And they came to him while he was in high school and said they wanted to move him to tight end, and then he was all for it and put everything into it, and the rest is kind of history. But the first thing for me was the physicality. I think Josh Sapp brings a physicality to the position that I love to see in tight ends. You know, for me, Brenny Stool's more of a pass catching tight end than he is a blocking tight end. So I'm not, for me, Sapp just kind of brings a little bit different dynamic. Not to say one is so much better than the other or anything. I just think they're a little bit. They do. Each one has different skill sets, and for me, It's the physicality with Josh Sapp. Yes, Tyler Venables is back on the depth chart today too. Be nice to see him back out there, man. Tough break for that kid. Doesn't seem like our linebackers get home to the QB as much as they did under BV. Is that personnel or coaching? Or I imagine this. I don't think Goodwin blitzes as much as Venables did. So I don't think you're imagining it, and I don't think it's personnel. I just think it's style. Um, they just they're just not quite as they don't play quite as aggressively. They're still aggressive. I think it's just aggressive in a different way, I guess. But no, I don't think Goodwin uses the linebackers exactly in the same way that Venables did. Exactly. Dominique looks like a very good number 3 running back, so Haynes isn't critical to have. That's exactly the point I was trying to make. He's just, and especially if we're talking about a guy that's probably not 100% ready. He's got 4 guys in front of him. There's no need to rush him onto the field. There's just there you can do more harm than good. Who was the tight end? You're talking about Olsen Pat Henry. He's kind of the guy behind Josh Sapp on the depth chart, the third guy. He is a true freshman who is a part of that last recruiting class. Um, they really like what they have in him. Another guy that brings some physicality. 6'3", 240, 250 pounds. Wasn't one of these big time recruits coming out of high school. Um, don't even think he was ranked in the top 300. But they like what they have in him. I think there's a reason you saw him on the field so early Saturday, because in today's environment, you don't want anybody coming and maybe trying to poach him away because he's not getting a lot of playing time yet. Did you ever imagine Tyler Brown would be this good this early? Anybody that's been watching me all summer knows how much I talked up Tyler Brown. So yeah, I thought Tyler Brown had the capability of making a major impact on this offense this year. I thought he brought a dynamic that the offense has sorely missed in the past two couple of seasons. Speed. Um, Antonio Williams is a great slot receiver, but he does not have the speed that Tyler Brown gives you. Troy Stellato is the only other receiver really that's playing right now that gives you that kind of speed, and nobody was expecting anything from him going into the season. So yeah, I thought Tyler Brown could absolutely come in and make an immediate impact. Did I see him making this kind of impact? Probably not. But I also didn't see Antonio Williams being hurt for most of the season either. If you'd have told me Tyler Brown was going to be starting, yeah, I could envision him having this kind of season, man, because I always thought he was underrated coming out of high school. I thought he got a little overshadowed because Mazio Bennett was on the same team, who he was in the recruiting class before Tyler Brown. And most people, just kind of peg Bennett as the best receiver on that team due to the recruiting rankings and stuff. If you actually watch the team play and watch those guys play, I always thought Brown was the better receiver of the two. Always. Um, so am I a little surprised he's making this much of an impact? Yeah, but I wouldn't have been surprised if I'd have known he was going to play this much due to Antonio being out. Are we going to lose both of the top two running backs after this year? I don't think you will. Um, I lean towards losing one. I just don't know which one. I would be very surprised if both came back, but I would be shocked if neither came back. Let's put it that way. If one, if one of them decides to come back, they're going to be the starter next year, and no matter with Ajama May coming in as an early enrollee. Um, if Shipley or Moffa stay, that's their job. They've got the job. I see one of them moving on and looking for an opportunity to be the featured back and not have to split carries with the other. That's just my opinion. I've not heard anything. I haven't been told anything. Um, you know, just 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 a hunch. I think again. I think they'll both of those guys will have one more year to kind of prove their worth to NFL scouts, and they'll be better able to accomplish that if they are a feature back, not splitting carries. So I kind of lean towards thinking one leaves, one stays. Can't believe Randall has been playing with another broken ham. Yeah, that kid can't catch a break, man. Tears his ACL last year. He comes back, breaks a hand, then has to have another operation on the other knee after last season. Misses the whole spring, comes back, finally starting to look like he's starting to kind of put it together, and now he's broke the other hand. Um, Although it's not keeping him off the field, I don't know how much it's affecting him. Dabo made out like it wasn't affecting him all that much, so don't want to make excuses for him or anything. If the coaches say it's not affecting him and they're still rolling him out there, um, must not be affecting him too bad. I remember breaking a finger on my hand one time, and the setup they put on my hand, I wouldn't have even been able to play a sport, much less catch a football. But technology has advanced a lot since then because that was a long time ago. Because I am a old dude. Where is Noble Johnson? Uh, that's another guy I kind of talked up going into the season or before the spring, anyways, because I always thought he was a little underrated. Man, Noble blew me away when he came out and worked out at Dallas Wings High School camp summer before last. He was just so impressive, man. He's built like a tank. Uh, I still think he's got a pretty high ceiling. I don't think he's ever going to be like this elite level number one receiver, but I do think he could be a really good complimentary number two type guy. I just don't think he's ready. Um, After watching him in the spring, it was pretty apparent he was going to be a guy that needed a year. So I don't think there's anything wrong with him or anything like that. I just think he's one of those guys that needed a year. Hannafin actually, Hannafin actually got some snaps at receiver Saturday. And unlike Johnson, Hannafin did not enroll early. He just got here in the summer. So a lot to learn in a short amount of time with him too, kind of similar to Jay Haynes. But he's starting to work his way in there. He's just behind some guys on the depth chart. That's it. Maffa is going to transfer a bit. I would prefer Shipley left. He's fumbled a lot. Also caused a ton of INTs by batting balls into tip trails. Still don't think he can make a guy miss in space. Yeah, Maffa almost transferred after last year. So, I mean, it very well might be him. I don't know. I just lean towards thinking one stays and one goes because there's going to be opportunities for whoever stays. And if both stays, if both were to choose to stay, then it kind of be more of the same, limited opportunities for both guys. So I just lean towards thinking one leaves, one goes. Um, and I have not heard anything of substance on Will Shipley. I've had people, I've had fans reach out to me and tell me stuff about how he's ready to go off to the NFL. That comes from some of his frat brothers and yada yada. So I don't put any stock into any of that stuff unless I hear it myself and I know who the source is. So I mean, it's just you don't. I just don't know which one. I just think one's going to stay, one's going to leave. Just kind of makes the most sense for both those guys. I don't think either one of them's ready to head off for the NFL. Um, they would not be picked very highly. Let's put it that way. They both still got some stuff to show before they head off to the draft. So if one were to leave, I see it being via the portal. Yeah. Everyone thought Tyler Brown needed a year back in September. How'd that turn out? I didn't. I never said that. Ever. Never said Tyler Brown was going to need a year. Doesn't mean just because Tyler Brown doesn't need a year doesn't mean Noble Johnson doesn't need a year. Different guys develop at different paces. Third and fourth string running backs, are they good enough to start if Shipley or Maffa leaves? I don't think Dominique Thomas is a starting Power 5 college running back. No. Um, I don't know about Keith Adams. I've not seen enough of him. What little I've seen, I've liked. But they've got two guys in there that are redshirting this year: Jay Haynes, Jarvis Green, kind of like a thunder and lightning kind of duo. Jay Haynes is the smaller, twitchier guy with a lot of speed. Jarvis Green's a little bit bigger, more of a straight ahead back. With neither one of them were rated very highly. I thought both were underrated. Jarvis Green was one of the best running backs in this state last year, or probably the best running back in this state last year at Dutch Fork. He just piled up monster numbers in high school. He never could figure out why he was so undervalued in high school. The best answer I got was most people thought he was a product of the system that they run at Dutch Fork. But that's and Jay Haynes was a guy that nobody even knew about. He plays at this little teeny tiny high school hardly anybody's ever heard of in Georgia. Um, the Clemson coaches got sent his tape, watched it, loved it. Spiller went out, scouted him, offered him. Clemson was kind of the first team in on him, and um, really led throughout. Kind of gives me Wayne Gallman vibes watching him, to be quite honest. But it'd be interesting to see what happens if Shipley and Maffa both leave. That would leave a huge void. That's why I tend to think one comes back because there's going to be great opportunities for whichever one stays. And I'm not going to say the rest of that, but they will have ample opportunity to do what they need to do ahead of the NFL draft after their senior seasons. What happens to Jay Hayes, Green, and Najama, mate? They become the backups probably. I don't think Shipley and Maffa both stay. Anyways, That would give you one. I mean, that would just put you way over your number. I that would put you at 7 scholarship running backs, count Thomas, who is a former walk on, who's on scholarship now, and the number's 5. I just don't see both of them staying under any circumstances. You are a running back. Isn't limited opportunities in a 2-back system better in the long run for running backs in this market? Maybe once you get to the NFL, but you need to show off what you can do to get to the NFL, right? I mean, you need the opportunity to show what you can do as the guy. And you know, Maffa's not had those kind of opportunities in the way Shipley has yet. I think Spector's got one more year he can use, but I do not expect him back next year. Let me check that right here and make sure I'm saying that right. He's a 5th-year senior, but I think he's still got a COVID year he could use. Let's see, 1, 2. So I think he could come back next year if he wanted to, but I don't expect him back. What's up with Trent Pearman? All the media was saying how great he looked at the open media practices in camp. Yeah, he did. He was solid, man. He looked solid. I mean, I don't know what you mean. What's up with him? He's 5th on the depth chart or whatever it is. He's 185, 190 pounds. I mean, he's a solid backup, but I mean, he's not going to win the starting job or anything. Yes, Hayes is faster than Gallman. Yeah, I just mean his running style reminds me of Gallman in a way. What about Hamp Green? What about him? What you asking me here? I'm not sure what you're asking me about Hamp Green. You're asking me if he has any more eligibility left. I'm not sure. I don't think he does. I think he's a 5th-year senior too, but whether he's back next year or not really don't matter. Let's see. He's a walk-on. They put him on scholarship this year because they had one come open, T.J. Dudley. If he's got a COVID year he could use next year, I'd bet anything he goes back to walk-on status. All right. Let's see, a couple of people have been asking me some recruiting stuff. Go back up here and try to find it. Clemson board's all hyped up wanting Dabo to hire Sam Pittman. A man who's been a head coach is just going to immediately go back to being an O-line coach. Yeah, that's something I don't think some people, factor in. That's a big step back, right? I have no idea what Sam Pittman's gonna do if he gets fired by Arkansas. Sounds like he might be going to. It's hard to imagine him wanting to just immediately take that big of a step back. Updates on Elijah Thurman and Bradley Shaw, please. Uh, both those guys were here for official visits this weekend. We'll start with the better news of the two first. I love where Clemson stands with Bradley Shaw, 4-star linebacker out of Alabama. But he's a guy I've never talked to. He just doesn't do media, doesn't say a lot publicly, so he's hard to get a good read on. Um, Remember, he took official visits to Notre Dame and Arkansas back in June, I think it was. He's from Alabama, so a lot of people thought maybe Auburn was the team to beat. Then he took that late visit to Clemson in July for the All-In Cookout. Things kind of started to swing a little bit. Um, I'll be shocked if he takes any more visits. To me, it's just a matter of when he announces. Um, I don't know if it's going to be soon or if he waits a little while. We'll see. I think he's pretty much done with the recruiting process. Just That's just based on something I've been told. Again, I've never talked to him, so I can't really say for sure. But based on what I was told, I think Clemson's sitting pretty here. Now, did touch base with Elijah Thurman yesterday. Um, he, you know, had one of his parents there with him. He told me the visit was amazing. Loved the love he was shown from his coaches, and yada yada yada. Caught it unbelievable was the word he used. Unlike Shaw, his recruitment, I don't think his is over yet. He's still got a official visit lined up for South Carolina after the season, early December. So this is one that looks like it could run all the way till early signing day, maybe even after. Um, Clemson wants to take two more offensive linemen, right? The other guy in the crosshair, two other guys in the crosshairs. One of them's Faber Edwin. He was supposed to be here for an official visit this weekend. Had a high school game Saturday at the same time of the Clemson game. Obviously couldn't make it. I have tried to reach out to him. And Faber's a guy that has always been very accessible to me. Every time I've asked him anything, he's always replied, even if it took him a day or two to get back to me. I have reached out to him a couple of times about if he was planning to kind of maybe reschedule that official visit. Nothing. Crickets. I haven't heard anything back from him. So I'm not sure that's even going to take place. Even if it does, I think Auburn's in the driver's seat here. They've kind of gained some momentum in this thing in recent weeks. The other guy is Andrew Dennis, who was committed to Michigan State. He is supposed to take his official visit here this weekend for the North Carolina game. Decommitted from the Spartans back in October, and Clemson offered him right after that. As for where they stand with him, we'll have a better idea after the visit. I don't like speculating on that stuff until Clemson gets to take their swing, so to speak. So we'll see. It's just I don't know. I'm getting a bad feeling on Edwin. I don't know about Dennis, and the fact that Thurman still wants to take that official to South Carolina doesn't give me the best feeling either. Not saying Clemson's not going to land him; they very well might. I just would have preferred to seen them lock that thing up this weekend and him scratch that visit. And maybe that's ultimately what happens. It very well could. But as of right now, he says he's still planning to take that official visit to South Carolina. So we'll see. Um, but Bradley Shaw, I think that one's done over. I think the hay's in the barn. I think it's just a matter of when the trigger gets pulled. How far do you believe Cade can take this Clemson team in the future? I think Cade Klubnik's got a high ceiling. I don't even think he's come close to hitting that ceiling yet, to be quite honest. He is not as far along as I expected him to be at this point, but he's also not gotten a lot of help from his offensive lineman. Um, he's not working with the same caliber of receivers that guys like Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson had. So that hurts a little bit. And he's also having to learn a new offense this year. Second offense in as many seasons, right? He had to learn a new one when he got here last year. Now he's having to learn a new one all over again under a new coordinator. So a lot of things kind of lined up against him this year, maybe stunted his development a little bit. But uh, there's a lot of things to like about Cade Klubman, man. His good is really good. He shows flashes, and man, that one of those touchdown throws he made the other day, where he just threaded a needle, is an example of that. When that ball leaves his hand, you're like, oh shit, man, that's going to be picked off, but he throws it right in between two guys, laser like accuracy. Um, it's just, I think you're going to have some patience with him. I think he's got an extremely high ceiling. When does the COVID year end? Every guy that was taken into 2024 every recruit signed in the 2020 class would have a COVID year. So one more year. So do you think we should get Jeff Scott back? I think he can get these wideouts back to wide receiver. We had the talent. I'm I'm not convinced you do have the talent. Not like you had back when with guys like T. Higgins and Justin Ross and Luke Hopkins and Sammy Watkins and Mike Williams and guys like that. Nah, I don't think Clemson has that kind of talent. Um, can you do that? Do I think you should get Jeff Scott back? I don't know. I'm not convinced Tyler Grisham's some terrible wide receiver coach. Unlike, um, you know, half this fan base. I'm not convinced of that. Maybe it turns out he is, but I'm not convinced of that. I've seen a lot of guys that Jeff Scott recruited on the tail end of his tenure at Clemson turn out to be busts. Um, and not because of Tyler Grisham. I'm talking about guys who transferred out of Clemson, went on to play under different wide receiver coaches, and still not do anything. So I think Clemson is suffering from missing on some guys, missing on many guys at wide receiver. Um, I think guys like Bo Collins haven't panned out the way they were envisioned to. Frank Ladson, two different schools, hasn't panned out the way he was envisioned to. We talking about a 5-star guy. EJ Williams, two different schools, hasn't panned out. Dakari Collins, two different schools, hasn't panned out. I think they have really missed on some guys, and I think NIL has hurt them when it comes to recruiting wide receivers because the top rated wide receiver prospects, they're commanding big dollar deals coming out of high school, and Clemson's not getting into those type of big bidding wars. So I think you got some misses at wide receiver. Here we go right here. You got one guy right here saying Grisham's got to go. He's convinced that Grisham's the problem. I'm not convinced he is. Maybe it turns out he is, but I don't see poorly coached wide receivers on the field. I just don't see it. I just think Clemson's not as talented there as they were in the past. My biggest gripe with the receivers right now are they aren't those dogs out on the perimeter blocking the way they used to be under Jeff Scott. To me, that's the biggest difference outside of the talent drop off. Uh, that's my biggest gripe, man. But guys, receivers are open, man. There's windows to throw in a lot of times, and Clemson just don't see them. You know? That's right. If you have not done so, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. 62.4% of our viewers are unsubscribed. So we would very much appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. And for those of you that have, we very much appreciate that as well. Last week you said hiring Riley helped with wide receiver recruiting. Was recruits' confidence in Streeter part of why he got let go so fast? No, I don't think so. I think I think Streeter got let go so fast because Dabo quickly realized that his that scheme Clemson was running needed to be revamped, retooled, redone, whatever you want to call it. They needed to do something different. That old Clemson offense had kind of become a little archaic, to be quite honest. And Brandon Streeter, you know, is not the guy to do that. He's never installed his own offense or anything like that. So you would have to make a change there and go out and find somebody capable of doing that. Um, that's why I think Brandon Streeter got let go so fast. Nothing to do with recruiting. Um, and I do think part of why Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore came to Clemson was because of the new offense. If they were still running this old offense, I'm not sure you get those guys. But don't get me wrong, I don't think you can say Tyler Grisham played no role in landing those guys. I mean, I don't think you can blame him for missing on guys and then not give him credit for when he lands some. I just think part of the appeal was the hiring of Garrett Riley and this new offense Clemson's kind of getting started and rolling here. If both are healthy, who is better, wide receiver, Brown or Williams? They're both extremely good. I would to me really the only difference is Brown's a little bit more explosive. Does that make him better? That's a matter of perspective. Do you think there will be any coaching changes in the offseason? Yes, absolutely. I think there's going to be some changes in that building. I don't think anything that's happened over the past 2 weeks is going to change that. Um, I maintain all along. I think there's a weak spot or two on that staff that probably needs to be addressed. To be quite honest, and this is just me, you know, speculating. Well, when Dabo Sweeney went out and hired Garrett Riley last year, I think he, along with most of us, assumed that would, cure most of the ails that were affecting the Clemson offense. Let's get out, let's replace this old scheme with something new, something fresh, and now we're seeing it wasn't quite that simple, man. That you probably got an area or two or some other things you need to address. And maybe some of it's a little deeper than just who's coaching them. Everybody wants to point to the coaches, but some things might be a little bit deeper than that. You know, maybe the offensive linemen you've been recruiting all these years aren't the best fit for this new offense. Again, me just speculating because they kind of look slow when they're out trying to pull and stuff. But maybe some of the turnover in the strength conditioning department has kind of hurt some there, even though you got the same guy running it and that's been running it for forever now. I don't know if he's as hands on as he used to be. That's something I don't know the answer to. I mean, everybody always just goes right to coaching and never considers it could be something a little bit deeper than that. But having said that, I do think there is a spot or two on that staff that probably needs to be looked at. I think all the because position coaches are not as bad as everyone thinks. They are not all to blame. You can't go out there and play football for the players. I agree. It's a lack of dog at receivers. Yeah, I don't think the coaching's as bad as it is as people think either. My only thing with the coaching staff is, and particularly on the offensive side, there's just not a whole lot of experience outside of the coaching they've done in Clemson. Spiller's in what his second year now. Grisham's in what his fourth year now. Um, Kyle Richardson's never coached at the college level anywhere but Clemson. Um, Thomas Austin's in his 4th year. He had 2 at Georgia State. Now he's had 2 at Clemson. So, I mean, there's just not a lot of outside experience. So when things start going wrong, things start going off the rails, you don't have a lot of outside experience to lean on and kind of guide you. And I think that hurts, man. I think that fresh eyes and fresh perspectives can always help more so than they can hurt. You just got to find the right guy. A lot of people, when they hear that word culture and internal hires, a lot of people automatically assume that you got to hire internally to protect that culture. And that's just not true. And I don't think Dabo Swinney believes that either. I think he'd probably prefer to promote from within, but I don't think he's afraid of going outside when he thinks he has to. I don't think Clemson's got anybody on that coaching staff that's terrible or anything like that. I just don't think there might not be, let's just say this, there might not be enough experience on the offensive side of the ball, and not enough outside experience. And a lot of those guys got hired in a short amount of time. So maybe he hired too many inexperienced guys in a short amount of time. One more reminder, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Always appreciate that. Me and Zach will be right back here Wednesday night, same time, 7 p.m. as we are every Wednesday for Paul Talk. Look for us on Friday for our pregame show. We usually do those in the afternoon. Time varies. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notify me button, and it'll let you know when we go live. Is Wisco that kind of talent? Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Surely Riley took the job with the provision that he could spend a year looking at coaches. Look, Dabo's not going to let his assistants hire the coaches. Even Venables didn't get that kind of luxury. So the buck stops with Dabo. He's going to be the one that does the hiring and the firing. What's my opinion of the Clemson FSU game in next year in Tallahassee? First of all, I can't wait because I love going to Tally. They let you down on the, maybe no. I might be thinking of a different place, but I love going to Tally, man. Getting to walk down there on that field, man, it's awesome. Awesome feeling. Kind of, it ain't quite the same as walking on the field down there at Notre Dame, but it's a little bit, it's similar. As far as the game, should be a barn burner, man. We got to get to next year first. Should be a barn burner though. Third time's a charm. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Man, I very much appreciate everybody that jumps on here with us every Monday night. We always have a good time, man. To all you new viewers out there tonight, come on back. We'll be right back here next Monday, 7 p.m. Do it every week, Monday live. My name's Jason Priester, allclemsontigers.com. See you next week.